So I want to. I don't want to talk about JD Vance, but I think we need to, because in that whole setup, anti-Christianity is actually disagreeing with white Christian nationalism, right? It's
Mhm.
not actually anti-Christian; it's just anti-them. Uh,
Well, and I did we've done this before, but it's been a while, so let's back up a minute and do it again. I
yeah,
explained in a video months ago what this means. So Kevin Roberts, JD Vance, any of them, you have the right to left spectrum, and I'm trying to get it in the camera. You have the right to left spectrum in this country. And somebody like JD Vance or Kevin Roberts or Mike Johnson, when they talk about the left, when we hear that as Americans, we think they're talking about the far left, the radical left, people who are progressive. There's a spectrum, a line that we put people on, and there are people all over that spectrum. Lots of people are in the center. That's how most of us sane Americans process those statements. But
sure,
when they talk about the left, they're talking about anyone who is to the left of them. So even people on the right or the far right who are just a little bit to the left of them are the left to them. So when they
right,
talk about the left, they're talking about this whole spectrum of people. I don't think anybody would argue that the Pope is a member of the left.
right,
Yet, he's not 100% in agreement with them. He's to the left of them, even though he's a member, in my view, of the conservative right. But he's not conservative enough. He doesn't agree with them 100%, so he's the left. And that is, again, how anti-Christianity is defined amongst themselves in a document like NSPM 7. You can be like, well, I voted for Trump 3 times, but I'm okay with my cousin over here being married to his husband. You're the left,
right.
because they don't agree with that. So I want more Americans to understand what they're saying when they're talking about the left. They're talking about a huge swath of the American population, even millions of people who probably wouldn't put themselves in the left.
Right. I mean, and I think that, this is also a theme with us, is that this isn't about compromise. It isn't about even moving the needle a little bit. It's about purity.
Mm-hmm.
It's about pure power and purity of all Americans. It is about, I mean, and this is the thing, everyone made fun of JD Vance rightly for lecture, mansplaining or mortal splaining to the Pope, as it were, how he ought to do his job, even though JD Vance is, relatively a recent newcomer to Catholicism. But it's really insidious, and it really paints the entire picture
Mm-hmm.
that JD Vance believes that he has the information and the authority to lecture someone like the Pope. And whatever you think about the Pope, you like him, you don't know what to think. He's right, he's left, he's this, he's that. He's a theologian, right? He's a religious scholar, like,
He entered the
first and foremost.
ministry at 14 years old.
Yes, right. And so it does sound like, there's a whole genre of meme that is one of my favorites, and it is men on Twitter trying to explain the books that women have written to the women who wrote the books.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
love that because it is so dumb and so of this moment. But that is what this felt like to me. But it's worse than that, because I think you could explain all of those things to JD Vance. You could say, look, he's a theologian. He entered the ministry at 14. He's been studying this his whole life. He's the fucking Pope,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I don't think it would move JD Vance to reconsider his position. I think he still thinks he's right.
Because
Right. And
they're
that,
always right. There is no compromise. They see the world a certain way. And if you disagree with them even slightly, you were wrong and you are the left. And you must be called out. And either you will go along with them and agree with them and shut up and let them push their worldview on everyone. You'll get out of their way and keep your head down and stay out of their way, or they will destroy you. That is their mentality. Onward, Christian soldiers. We are in a war, and we will destroy anyone who gets in our way of winning this war. And so that is part of what JD Vance's comments to the Pope were about. And he was tasked with saying this because he's the most prominent Catholic now in the United States. And he was tasked with rebuking the Pope because of that.
so if you're just tuning in, this is Unholy Ground with Andrew Watkins and me, Sam Osterhout. Welcome. We are having a delightful conversation about white Christian nationalism and the crushing of dissent and freedom of speech. Welcome. I want to talk a little bit about a kind of a hope and a danger. I think that I'm sort of sensing, having been having produced so much content this week around politics and being able to be in the green room for a lot of really important conversations that we have on Lincoln Square, and uh, I feel a sense of hope that Democrats and even non-Democrats and independents and Republicans are feeling a little bit revolted by Trump and by all of this, right? Even MAGA, Christian nationalists are disgusted by Trump depicting himself as Jesus, are just sort of questioning this whole thing. And like I said, it feels like hope, but I'm also really nervous about that because one, um, anything that the MAGA and white Christian nationalists I am skeptical of or dislike. Right, we are not a part of them. I don't want to follow their playbook, and I don't want them deciding what our politicians can and can't say. That's what we talk about every week. But two, I'm concerned that if we have these little victories, in primaries or in special elections, that we take our eye off the bigger prize. Um, what do you say to our audience who is feeling hope right now?
Well, I'm a cynic in terms of anything that these MAGA people say. So one of the undercurrents of someone like Joel Webbon posting saying that the president must be demon possessed because he
Right.
posted that picture. A lot of these men in the MAGA movement are really mad that the highest advisor to the president is a woman. And Paula White Cain has went on the record practically calling him Jesus just a couple of weeks ago. So
Right.
in his demented, crumbling brain, for that crowd to come up with this AI image of him as Jesus and put it out there, a lot of those same men, Doug Wilson, same men blame her. If he had a man around him advising him, this kind of thing wouldn't happen. So that's part of the undercurrent that you have to understand is happening when these men, especially, and the women who help them, Riley Gaines and Allie Beth Stuckey and all these hideous, horrible women who help them. That's really the undercurrent of what they're trying to accomplish by condemning him. It's not at all about, oh, he's blasphemed. This has gone too far.
Right.
We don't really want a Christian nationalist nation where men are in charge and it's only white men who are in charge. This was a subtle way to look like they were holding up Christian standards and beliefs while attacking the woman that they want to be removed from the orbit of the president so that one of them can be put in that orbit. So, you know, I don't say that to bash anybody's hope here, but please understand those are the dynamics that are at play.